have been lifting for however long, not a beginner, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know what? Let's fuck around and find out with this bodybuilding thing. So I'm a power lifter now, or, you know, I'm just someone that trains in the gym just to be strong. What would your advice be to somebody that is like, that looks really cool, but incredibly overwhelming?
Yeah.
What would your main advice be for somebody that's enjoying watching Reese's journey unfold?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you would want to speak to like a contest prep coach, I would say, and even just sit down and just throw around like how that would work. The amount of people I've just like sat down with and been like, here, this is how it looks for someone who wants to compete. Because every good coach needs the time before the prep starts to bring that person's best. Like if you come and, you know, we're like, all right, you know, what does this mean to you? And you're like, oh, I just want to do it. I don't really care about the outcome. It's like, oh, well, that kind of changes things a tiny bit, because you're like, well, there might not need to be as long of an improvement phase before you kind of move into prep, or this like prep for prep kind of period, right? So that's a bit different. But if someone's like I literally had like Gemma, she was like, I want to compete. I don't care when. You're the boss, and you just tell me what to do. And I was like, cool. So we're going to compete next year, like at the end of next year. And this was at the start of last year. So I'm like, your prep's going to start in April. We're going to basically improve your physique up until that point, and we're going to try and pack on as much size as we can, you know, in your legs and in your upper body, because this is the look that we need to bring to make sure we stand up there and we look like we actually belong in the category. So then it was just mapped it out. It's like growth. Like she was obviously in really good shape. Like she had really good structure.
She's got like Gemma looks like the total package. Like she has the bone structure. Then she's got like the look of a competitor as well. Just
absolutely.
Like the total package of it.
Yeah, so
I'm enjoying her journey.
Yeah, so that's a good example. Like, and she was like, sweet, I'm in. Like once I mapped it out, I was like, it's done. So that's where the motivations to do it. It's like, if you want to bring your best, you have to go into a period before you go into contest prep where you are improving your physique. There's categories that have specific criteria. That criteria is on a specific look. That look is based on a specific body composition. So the training has to replicate that. If you do wellness, you need to have big legs. If you do bikini, you have to look great in a bikini. Like and if you're a guy, it's like bodybuilding, you need exceptional amounts of muscle mass to do open bodybuilding. So good period beforehand, a period where you're just like about to prepare to move into contest prep, where you've just like owned the physique that you've built. And then when you move into contest prep, it's just a little turn of the dial. So it's not a wholesale change of like, I'm in contest prep, so now I'm going to do all of these habits. Those habits should already have been on lock for a very long time. And that's where I think my guys thrive the most. Like, a lot of them are like, this is easy. And I'm like, it's easy because you do it. It's easy because all we're doing now is eating a little bit less and you're moving a little bit more. You train, you track your steps, you track your macros, you meal prep, you recover, you take your supplements. Like, you do it all already. So
just the volume of the food and output
it's
changes.
Literally just a tinker of numbers.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the beauty is for most people. So yeah, like go and speak to someone who's experienced. I do believe that if you do want to bring your best, you should go with someone who's prepped people in the past.
Yes.
Makes
sense.
Yeah, in this day and age. I mean, I get it. People have to start somewhere, you know, because I'm like, well, how do you get into contest prep if you don't get that first person? So I get it.
It's like, how do you get a job without job experience?
Yeah, I get it. So sometimes I go back and forth on that, especially being like a mentor to other coaches. But I do think like if I was looking for, you know, someone and I wanted to bring my best, I would want someone with experience in that space.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, they're like, you know, bringing in ridiculous before and afters, and they're like a body composition specialist.
And maybe being mentored by somebody.
Yeah, something like that. So you want to know those details. So yeah, that's it. That would be my, and then that person has to be very upfront with the whole process. Because the one thing I do before we go into any of the planning, I'm like, especially if you're a female, I'm like, this sport is fucking expensive.
Yeah.
The suit costs you 4, 5, 6,
Thousands.
7, depending on how many diamonds and whatever stuff you want. Like, it costs a fortune. And then you've got posing, and you've got your makeup on the day, you've got your hair, You got your tan. You've got to enter the federation as a member. You've got to
the categories you got to pay
enter
for.
each category and pay for that. If you want to do multiple shows, which I would encourage you to do because you're already in shape, you may as well enjoy it. So it's just like all those things add up. You got your food, you got your coaching, you know. So I'm like, this is what you're looking at. Do you want to continue this conversation? The guy's a little bit different. It's like, $70 pair of like, you know,
your black trunks for classic.
Couple G-bangers that have got a bit of glitter on them, depending on what color you like, and then you've got your classic shorts. It's like it's not that big of a deal. You just got to get a haircut, like a fade and a fucking tan. So it's a little bit cheaper for the boys.
Next question.
Yeah.
For the girls, because I know for me, I in the past struggled with body image and food. What is, for lack of a better term, good aftercare for after a bodybuilding show?
Yeah, so that's a great question even before it, to be honest. So like one of the things I'll always say is like, what are your motivations for the show? Why do you want to do it? And I can kind of cut through the bullshit a bit. I can see someone who is emotionally struggling with their body image, has a bad association with their body and food, and is using the bodybuilding show as a vessel for that. I can just see it. You just ask certain questions and you're just like, this isn't going to work out for you. Like, you need to have had practice dieting. You need to be comfortable in your own skin. You need to have the ability to push your boundaries in terms of your size on either end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Bodybuilding is about discomfort, and it is discomfort in pushing your body size to improve it. And it's also about discomfort in stripping off as much body fat as you can to show, you know, what you've built underneath. So if that person has, you know, healthy relationships with food and gotten to a point where they're, you know, they've gone to the show and they've, you know, done well or whatever, the post period is where, and I typically find, especially for the women, it's like make or break on whether they actually ever compete in the sport again or maintain a decent body composition within that 6, 12, 24 months. Like, I've just seen people like get fucked up. Like, I took on a person because their coach basically ditched them at the 9 weeks out. And this person was like a referral from a friend of mine.
Oh my
So I was
God.
like, well, I only did this because it was a referral from a friend, and, you know, she was like, you know, I told her to go with you at the start, like she didn't, you know, blah, blah, blah. I was like, fuck it, I'll do it. And I even said to this person, I'm like, I don't care what's happened. I'm like, we work at a bare minimum 4 weeks after the show. Yeah. So I'm like, if you can't agree to do, 13 weeks? So I'm like, if you can't agree to do 13 weeks with me, this isn't happening.
That's such a good duty of care, though.
Absolutely.
Like, that is like you really showing that you give a shit, and contest prep doesn't end on comp day.
Yeah, and the thing that people lose with bad planning is what's next. So they go to the show, the next day they're just like, don't really feel like going to the gym, don't really feel like sticking to my diet, don't really feel like this. And it's like, well, you've got no plan. So for my guys, I'm like, after the show, we have to recover. And part of the recovery is bringing your body back up to a healthy body weight. And we can do that at the rate that you feel comfortable with. I'm obviously of the, it's more favorable in my opinion to bring someone back up to that body weight quicker, because they're just going to offset all of those negative side effects that come with dieting sooner.
Totally.
But some people aren't comfortable with that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, cool, let's work with you and we'll just gradually bring it up. So by the time, at the same time as bringing up the calorie intake, you're taking down this overtraining that comes with contest prep. Like, they're doing fucking 2 hours of cardio a day, let's say, or whatever.
Yeah.
Doing an hour of training, you know, posing, all of that shit. So you're not going to just drop it and gradually, you know, just slam up the calories. You've got to titrate some things. And there's some benefits to having the cardio in there and all that kind of stuff. So that's a period that is super important. And even just psychological support, hunger hormones go absolutely rife. Like, if you've gone through 24 weeks of controlled famine, what's going to happen at the end of it? Your body's just going to be like, fucking eat.
See you later, ghrelin. Like, it's just going to be through the roof.
And people think like that they're more anabolic post-show, and you're actually more likely to put on a fuck ton of body fat after a show because you have none. So you're not going to stack on heaps of muscle. Like, hormonally, you're fucked. You're depleted. Training performance-wise is the same.
Why do people think that they're more anabolic after?
I think it's like they just run the body fat thing and the insulin sensitivity, and then they go off like what the pro bodybuilders are like. But it's like, again, you're using a very, very small, populace to make a decision for everybody that are genetically gifted on ridiculous amounts of performance-enhancing drugs, as well as they're genetic elite. So it's not a great place to base your decisions on.
Yeah.
So you need to take all of that into consideration. I've had some of the girls like 6 weeks later, they're like, my hunger is fucked.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we have to settle this storm. Can't give you more food.
Yeah.
It's not about the food. It's not about the calories.
There is no amount of food in your stomach that is going to have you satisfied right now. This is hormonal. This is...
Correct. Yeah. So then it's like a push towards fibrous food, a push towards more voluminous stuff, like, all of these things. If you don't have the support of someone through that period, you eat the house out, you don't go to the gym, you have no plan. And I just don't know what it is, but just women are way more delicate with that.
Yeah.
And then that's when you get the story of like, oh, bodybuilding wasn't for me. Totally. I had this happened to me post-show. I lost my physique within 3 months, 6 months. And, now I'm fucked up and whatever. It's like, you're fucked up because you had a fucked up plan.
Totally.
You just weren't coached properly afterwards. So that's it. It's like contest prep does not finish on contest prep day. There is a period after it where the good coaches understand that you need to be brought back to a healthy state of pre-contest condition.
Homeostasis. Yeah.
Basically. So yeah. So that's it. That's how we do it.
How good. I loved that. That was so insightful. I think like I've got a couple of friends now at the moment that are like on the outskirts of wanting to try something like it. So I think like hearing it from this perspective of cool, like this is the stuff.
This is how we do it properly.
Yeah, this is how you do it properly.
Don't just bounce in and just day one just start crash dieting and doing all this shit and then it's over on comp day. Like it's a proper plan to bring your best and make sure we keep your best.
The two big take homes, like I think to take like for me would be it's not a dieting competition. It's not getting the smallest. It's a presentation. It's
absolutely
a thing. And that after show period, like it's supposed to be quite hard. Like an understanding, having the education behind that is so important because I'd love to see more women do it. Not feel damaged by the sport afterwards. So like,
it hurts my feelings when I see that a lot. Like people talk bad down on a sport that I love.
Yeah.
I'm like, you just didn't do it properly.
Yeah.
Like, there's people like, sure, like psychologically just whatever happens. But most of them is just bad planning and it just kills me.
Yeah.
The one thing I would just add finishing up is like, if you are thinking about doing contest prep, maybe even just like try not to set like it needs to be done on this date if you can. Even do a photo shoot, get yourself into a condition that's probably like, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks out, 8 weeks out from like stage lean.
Yeah.
Because then you can sit there and be like, well, can you sustain this intensity and maybe a tiny bit more intensity just in terms of everything for another 6 weeks or whatever. And they'll go, yes. And they'll be curious to see if they look like that, what else is underneath. And some of them will go, fuck no, this was the hardest thing I've ever done. And it's like, well, you've just stopped a really negative experience for one person and you've also ignited a fire for someone else.
Yeah.
I did that with Jackson last year. I'm like, bro, you're probably 6 weeks. And his face was like, really? And I'm like, yeah. And he just went, sweet. So now it's more.
Yeah.
And this time around, everything is just humming because we've had that.
He is looking like he's thriving.
Yeah, he's changed so quickly in such a short, like just so much.
His quads, I can't remember what he posted the other day.
Yeah,
It was an upper body exercise, but his quads, I was like, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah. And that's the benefit of being prepared.
Yeah.
Like he's saying it's easy. Jem is saying it's easy. It's not easy. It's easy for them because it's normal.
Yeah.
And that comes from good planning. So yeah, set yourself a photo shoot, set yourself something like that, see where you land. If you want to take the challenge on after that, go for it. If you feel like it was a bit too much at the time, congratulations. You've got some awesome photos from a photo shoot. And maybe you set that again for the next year. Yeah.
Amazing. I think that's really good advice.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
That's it. All right. That was good.